There's quite literally no reason to not believe in yourself. Stop that right now. So, I get it. We get told a lot about how we're not good enough, and this is why we need to buy this or that thing, or take this or that path that someone else has decided for you. Or sometimes it's others who saw your beautiful, shining, bright light and they needed to squash it because it would mean they would have to look at their own selves and what it was that they were choosing, which was probably also squashing their light, which is sad. So, what is the opposite of believing in yourself? Doubting yourself, worrying about not making it, and not even trying. So let's look at what some philosophers and thinkers have said about worry and doubt. One of the Stoic philosophers, Epictetus, Epictetus, however you say that, said, people are not worried by real problems so much as by their imagined anxieties about real problems. And Seneca also said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Even Eckhart Tolle said, worry pretends to be necessary, but serves no useful purpose. And Byron Katie said, it's not the problem that causes the suffering, it's our thinking about the problem. So what then? We know that how we look at something impacts our experience of it. I'm sure you've had the experience where you doubted yourself and you showed up with less energy, less focus, less motivation, less follow through, probably just quit before you really began. And this is not about feeling bad about doubting yourself, right? Because like I said, it's so natural and encouraged in our society that if you desire or want to do anything that deviates from making you a cog in someone else's machine, then you're going to experience loads of criticism. People doubting you and saying things like, are you sure you want to do that? Or no one's really made it by insert your dream. Even though they don't really even know that. It's probably illogical to think that no one has. And I think there's often this sort of unspoken or maybe even spoken idea that like unless you could be the absolute best, then you shouldn't even try because everybody else fails. When there are so many people at so many different levels of anything that you desire to do or be, where they're creating a life around that, they're allowing it to be part of their life. So, believing in yourself is a commitment and a practice. So a commitment to yourself and creating what it is that you desire, and a practice of shifting out of doubt and fear. And you think about this practice as involving just like 3 different steps. 1, begin to identify when these thoughts arise and just identify what they are exactly. Like, for example, you could become aware of when you're thinking in sort of like black and white. Like either I, have to succeed right away and like make this, big, huge thing, or I'm not even going to try. Right? So that's black and white. Or it could be something like sort of catastrophizing, like, oh, if I fail at this, then the worst possible thing happens, or like I'm shamed from now until forever. And I could never recover. So what you're doing is you're beginning to like separate yourself from identifying with those thoughts. Like I am not taking on this as like my reality, but I'm going to identify it as this is my pattern of thinking. Like in CBT, it's called thinking traps, right? You're beginning to identify them and be like, oh, okay, this is some doubt that's popping up. This is fear. This is, my brain wanting to like think about the worst case. And then the step 2 is to begin to identify the feeling underneath that, right? So my thought might be like, oh God, if this doesn't work, then everything's terrible. But what is the actual feeling underneath that? Am I afraid? Am I feeling vulnerable? Am I worried about being exposed in some way if this doesn't work out in the way I think it should? And does that bring up shame? Am I feeling insecure in some way? And so you're getting curious. You're just being able to hold your own space with whatever this is, your own experience. You're holding your experience of this so that we don't have to avoid it anymore. Avoidance feeds doubt. Avoidance feeds fear. The more we feed into that and we don't show up for the things that we really want, the less we're going to believe it's possible. But that means you can also shift it. Like the moment you start showing up little bit by little bit, the more you believe it's possible. And even in this practice, like what you're doing is you're practicing choosing belief over fear, choosing yourself and your decision of like, I am going to create this or be this, and your tenacity over maybe even a patterned way of being around fear and doubt. And then, so once you've identified kind of like, okay, this thought is this, I don't have to identify with it, but I can identify what it is. And then you explore a little bit around the emotion. You know, like it could just be like, okay, I'm thinking this, that, and I can tell I'm afraid. It doesn't have to be super complicated. And then there's two paths after this. So the third part is deciding on which path. So once you identify the fear, you can either allow this to be a moment where you reassure yourself and support yourself in the way that you need. So for example, if it is that I'm afraid of something, you know, or feeling exposed if I show up online, then you can offer to yourself like, hey, I know that there's a possibility that people can be cruel and say mean things and stuff, but I know that I'm going to support myself by reminding myself that I know why I'm showing up, I know who I am. I can offer to myself like what I know about myself. Like, hey, I know I'm a creative person. I know that this is me supporting my dream and that really matters. I know that I matter. I know that I'm valuable. And then you can also just validate like, hey, yes, that would be scary. Like whatever it is, right? If I show up and do this thing that, you know, that makes me feel vulnerable, and that's totally fair. But I still get to have a choice in this. And to allow myself to move past this fear, you know, taking action is what's going to really help that. And so I'm going to choose to do that even in a small way. I'm going to choose to get closer and closer to my dream because my dream matters. So you're showing up, you're validating yourself, you're supporting yourself in the way that you need. That's one path, right? The other path is sometimes our fears or this agitation within us, our anxiety is showing us something that actually would be really helpful to address, right? So if the fear is like, oh, I don't know if I can make that big leap, what if I fail? If it's because, hey, I actually know in the back of my mind that I don't have, you know, like a safety net and that this might actually create a tough situation, then your fear is actually being really wise in that moment and it's giving you information. And so what you can do then is say like, okay, is this showing me something that I just need to pay attention to and that I can, you know, address in some way? Not to be perfectionistic about it. There's never going to be like a right time to take a risk, you know, but you can support yourself in creating maybe like a safety net, or you can say like, hey, maybe my idea of it where, you know, say you want to run ads to something, but you've never really done that before. I'm not going to throw $1,000 into running ads when I can like test it out a little bit, or I could take this course that would show me, you know, like, so you were actually supporting yourself in a really practical way because maybe the fear was showing you like, hey, this is a leap that actually might cause a problem. But I'm always moving forward, and that's the commitment to yourself. Like I'm not, even if my fear is showing me something that I need to address, I then address it. I then take that step. I then I then create a secure base so that I can move forward. Or I break down my big vision into a smaller step that actually is really attainable. So that's where the decide comes in, right? So we identify, we feel, and we decide. Do I need to support myself and validate myself, or do I need to address something? Either way, I'm moving forward because I'm committed to myself and to what I know I want to create and my desires and that belief in my own self. You're committed to saying yes to you. It's literally only you with you for the rest of your life. I mean, you'll have other people in community and things, but like at the end of the day, it's you with you, and you're the only one that can show up to your dream and your vision and whatever impact you want to create in the world. It has to be you. And that's beautiful and powerful. And like, what an amazing opportunity. So say yes to you today.